Hello, geometry students. Today is the first day of me being gone for a little while. As we talked about a little bit before the end of before MEA break, we're going to be getting into a very important chapter here. Now, with triangles, we're starting with a kind of a basic day of the shouldn't say basic day, a day of kind of the basic understandings of triangles and their angle measures, and then the certain things we can do with them. So your homework, there's 10 questions, and just about all of them are different. So you're going to kind of see a bunch of different situations in your homework. First of all, right off the bat, we're just going to be classifying these things. Triangle A, we notice once it's got that right angle in it, you've got a right triangle. Okay. Triangle B, all three of those angles are the same measure. Okay. Now, there's not a specific name for it listed. Which you can look at is the other set of notes that are attached to the checklist for today. We classified triangles in that set of notes last year by angles and by their sides. So there's the scalene, isosceles, and equilateral over there. You'll notice when you have an equilateral triangle, you end up with all three sides congruent and all three angles congruent. Now, for the sake of what it's asking us here, that's going to be an acute triangle because all three angles are less than 90 degrees. When all three angles are less than 90 degrees, that's going to be an acute triangle. And then when we're looking at triangle C, you've got that one angle measure that is greater than 90. Okay, so you've got one angle measure greater than 90 degrees. That's going to make this an obtuse triangle. And then triangle D is also going to be an acute triangle because all three are less than 90. It's just not that special kind where we have the equilateral where they're all the same, meaning all three sides are the same. Okay, so getting into kind of what you're actually going to be seeing today, right off the bat, the very generic question here, sum of all angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. And I think we all know that. Okay, so then looking at that, we have to figure out what the measure of angle X is. Well, all you're going to do is at 180 degrees that makes up this triangle, you're going to subtract 83, subtract 48. If you wanted to add those things up together first, you could have done that. Regardless, you're going to take 180 degrees, subtract the angles that are already in play here, and you're going to be left with 49 degrees, I think. Let me check that on my calculator quick. Holy cow. Yeah. So you're going to end up with your X value of that 49 degrees. And that's kind of that real simple first type of question you're going to kind of ease yourself into the homework with. After that, a few questions later, you're going to see something more like this, where there's a few things going on here. So we have a couple different triangles, okay? We've got a few different triangles. We've got those two smaller ones. We've got this one big one. And then you'll notice that we're not even looking for the angle measure of one inside of there. We're looking for this guy out here. Okay, so now before we get ahead of ourselves, kind of what we got used to with the transversal work last chapter was being able to kind of take one piece of information that we have and kind of connect it through a string of rules and theorems and congruences and get all the way over to another angle that we needed to find. So that's kind of what's happening here when you're looking at multiple triangles and how you're going to use what you have in front of you to get over to this guy on the side. So first of all, let's talk about what we know. Well, we need to start figuring out some of these angles inside the triangle. Well, right now, this angle is 32, okay? It's kind of written in the middle of the triangle, but it's that angle up there. All right, now I know what a lot of us are going to say is right away that these two are going to be the same. So let's just do 180 minus 32, and then we're going to cut that into two, and that's those two angles. Not so quick, okay? Now, honestly, looking at this problem, I haven't done this problem yet. I don't know if that's the case or not. But I will tell you something we've talked about over and over again is don't be fooled by the picture. A lot of us want to go right into it and say that those two are going to be congruent. We don't know that yet, okay? So don't just go ahead and assume that. What we do know is that these two angles make a straight line. So those two angles have to add up to 180. So 180 minus that 105 that we see on the left, that means that interior angle is going to be 75. Now that has to be true because we know that those two make a straight angle. So now when we're looking for this guy down here, okay, we can go find that, excuse me, and we can use the information we already have. So then we have that 180 minus 75 that we just found. It's going to give you the 105. And then you subtract the 32, okay, and that's going to give you 73. And that's going to be what this angle on the inside is. So first of all, there you go. Don't just assume those two are going to be congruent because they look like it. Second of all, let's talk about the actual process of this problem. Now, it's easy to just start filling spots in and go down a rabbit hole and get to a place that we necessarily didn't need to be. Let's talk about this. If we're going to be solving for x over here, the only angle that we really need is this one right here, because we know that those two are vertical angles, which means that they are congruent and they're going to be the same measure. So really all we need out of these multiple triangles is that angle right here, okay? Now in order to find that angle, if we're looking at the big picture of the triangles, we really only need these two. So once we had this 75 degrees, we really had all the information we needed. You don't need to automatically start going in and filling all these angles in just because. It's okay if you do, but kind of look at it first, get a plan of attack. See the information that you actually need to go find, and then just worry about finding that information. So if we know that this one is 75, so just to kind of zoom out a little bit here, there's a bunch of triangles being involved right now. If we look at what we're focused on, that's basically the triangle that we're looking at. Right now, you found out because of the straight angle theorem or the linear pair that we've got 75 degrees in that bottom corner. Up here, they're giving you 32 and 43 degrees in these two angles. Well, add them up. Angle addition. 32 plus 43 is going to give you 75 degrees as well. So then, since we're looking for this guy to be vertical angles with our x, all you're going to be doing, 75 plus 75 is going to be 150. Subtract that from 180, you're left with 30 degrees. And if this guy is 30 degrees, then your x is 30 degrees because they're vertical angles. So I like this problem as an example because it's easy to kind of go down a rabbit hole with some information you don't necessarily need. And it's nice to see a few different instances where don't trust the picture, which triangle are we really concerned with when there's 3 or 4 within a given picture, etc. Okay, so you're going to see something like that for a few different examples. And then down here, we're going right back to a little bit of our transversal work. So they're telling you, now we can make some assumptions about angles because they're telling you that these two are parallel. Okay, well, if they're parallel and we need to go find x, what's one of the relations that we can kind of call upon from what we know? Well, I'll tell you right now, one of the mistakes that some of us are going to make, because I made it when I looked at this question the first time, is those are alternate interior angles. What happened there? Those are alternate interior angles. So what that means is that they're congruent, right? So then some of us really knee-jerk reaction here are going to say that x equals 141. Not so fast. The alternate interior angles are that 141 and this whole thing. Be careful. That whole thing, the combination of x and this 48 are what's going to be congruent to your 141. So if you want to look at it in the form of an equation, 141 is equal to x plus 48. Or if you just understand the fact that, hey, I have 141, I need to subtract 48, and that's going to get my x, you're going to end up with 93 degrees is equal to x. Okay? So, as again, another thing we kind of talked about as I wrap up the notes here for today is you guys have been doing an awesome job so far. Legitimately phenomenal job so far. You guys, both classes averaged well into the A, well into the 90% on the last test as an average. Fantastic. So, I told you, I'm going to have to start challenging you guys a little bit more. Here's your challenge. Those are the only few examples you get. There are some much trickier ones on the homework, but I know you guys can do it, and let yourselves work through some of those things. Not too bad of a day, hopefully. By the time this is done and you guys are all set to work, you should have a good amount of work time. So go ahead, get to work. You can help each other out. Make sure that you're focused on learning this stuff, and that should be all we got for 5-1. Have a great day.